Hey everyone, this is the Kubeflow Notebooks community meeting for the 16th of April 2026. We are still full swing making progress on Notebooks 2.0. And if you don't know what that is, there's an FAQ and there's also a first alpha, which is not ready for production. Don't use it in production, but it is available. And the manifests have not been merged into the manifest repo yet, but they will be very soon. Or is that correct? I think that's correct. They haven't quite been merged yet. Yep. And then you can also try it in development. And that's kind of where if you're in this meeting or watching this call, probably you care about that. You can run a local dev version of it very easily by going into the Notebooks 2.0 repo, which is the Notebooks repo, and the V2 branch, Notebooks V2 branch. And then under the root of the repo, there's a file called development guide. And then you can do all this part, but then the main part is tilt, which lets you run a single command. Which lets you run a single command, and it will build all the local versions from the repo you're currently running. And then it will deploy it into a kind cluster. It will create a kind cluster if you don't have one. It will start it. The only thing it doesn't do right now, and we're going to change this, and that's one of the things we'll talk about, is that it doesn't currently do auth like in production. So, and it does, but it does use SDO. It does use um, well, yeah, that's the main thing it uses that's similar to production here. And we use a cert manager in SDO, but we need to also add auth systems so that there's like a example auth version for this, and we'll come back to that. But you just literally run one command, so tilt up, and it takes a few minutes, like 5 or 10 minutes, I think it says here, but mainly for the front end to build. I don't know if we can make that faster or not. That's an interesting question. And you should be able to try things out and give feedback or start developing changes. And we'll talk about areas people can help with if you don't know. If you need tasks and you have experience, please reach out on the Slack on the Notebooks channel, kubeflow-notebooks on the CNCF Slack, which you can join by going to kubeflow.org community CNCF Slack. Okay. Let's start this now. So the YouTube videos, we just talked about it offline. We're going to make sure that we actually publish them. There are so many that haven't been published, and it is something we need to address. So we've got a group of people. We're going to start rotating the task between the people. But to clear the backlog, I'm not sure what the best way to do that is. There's probably like 12 of them that need to be done, maybe even more. So yes. Okay. The faster thing, we need to actually fix the fact that it's disconnected right now. Actually, I really need to check with Andre to do that, or someone needs admin to do it. Okay, Dependabot, I think, did we merge these? I think we merged some of them, right? Or no, we haven't. And
yeah, so the point on that front is that mostly, at least for notebooks, there is some input missing from the front end people. Yeah, the question kind of is that like whether we merge it as is or if there's like more preference regarding the grouping. I think in any case we need to iterate on this. And yeah, I mean, I think it would be good to get started on it, and I'd be happy to drive it together with Andy, I think.
Yeah,
so do you need
I
to
just because we were doing front end configs, I just wanted Paulo or Guilherme or Charles or somebody just to acknowledge that that was going in. I didn't have iteration is unavoidable. The GitHub stuff seems extremely straightforward. Thank you, Christian. There were some other cool things that he was doing around some of these Docker scans, but that stuff's just kind of weird and not as well understood. So we just ripped that out for now until we have, kind of just let's get something in working and then we can evolve that over time. So I'm very comfortable with both of those. I think that the dashboard one I approved. I don't have merge rights, but I think the dashboard one is good to go in my mind. There's a bunch of noise there. This should quiet the noise and put us in a better place. And like I said, I'm comfortable with the front end stuff. I just wanted to make sure, maintainers from that portion of the code base were okay with it as well. The GitHub action stuff all looks very sensible and ready to roll there. So no concerns on my end.
Sorry, I missed that tag there. I'll take a look right now, Chris.
Okay, also in that vein, do we have enough people who are listed as reviewers on the front end? Like, because this is just is falling through to review by these two people always fine? I mean, it's probably fine. I'm just checking if we want to add another reviewer here, not approver, but just a reviewer. Because I mean, it means that the people who, of course, once there's the big thing that's I want to highlight for V2 at least is that merging changes without E2E tests is quite dangerous. It's probably not as dangerous on the front end. But if this gets merged, it'll be the first time we actually have PRs being raised with dependabot for this v2 branch because we've never had that before because they don't get scanned on the main branch. So like
I did call that out in my approval, but it's like I feel like front end particularly has like Cypress tests and stuff and is much better positioned to handle this.
Oh, actually, we're not doing the other ones. I see. So yeah, we've commented out. So just for reference, we've commented out because yeah, we'd really want to do it once we've got the tests on these ones because we were not going to merge them until we have tests. So at least one E to E test, like that's the
Yeah, and not only the tests are the thing that I think are missing until we can sensibly activate this. I think also we kind of need to get the big bunch of like modernization changes in before it makes sense to rely on Dependabot. Otherwise, we will just be getting used to ignoring it, and that's not the point.
Yeah, I think getting some of Christian's other PRs, like we know Dependabot's going to raise PRs that like Christian has already raised that we need to review to get us to a better state. So, that's why I kind of liked his style of just commenting this out in the config because we just want to, this is the direction we're going to go. We want to uncomment these. Some of this stuff just isn't ready yet.
Also, are we gonna should it just side note, should it actually be daily? I mean, it makes sense from a security perspective, but we're not going to ship releases daily anyway, right? So is it because the security alerts should happen daily, yes, but like should we be batching these into like a weekend thing? I don't know, right? It's just kind of just an interesting question, like to reduce noise even further. Because daily, I mean, this seems unlikely we're gonna if say a package changes twice in a day, which seems unlikely unless there's a security reason, in which case we should get a separate alert for security problems. That we actually need it to be done daily. And just a thought. Anyway, yeah. Cool. It just depends on velocity, I guess. Okay, anything else there? Yeah.
For the reviewer's question you're saying, I think it would be nice to have Charles and Guilherme as reviewers, at least on the front end possible.
I'll leave that up to the approvers in that section to decide how they do it. But if you want to put requirements on people, that's fine. Or just choose to add them, but I'll leave you to that.
Okay.
Okay. I just was trying to list the PR that we had for this one. Where was this one? This one. Okay, cool. Okay, any other comments about Dependabot? No. Okay, release tasks. So we have merged all. No, yeah, anyone? No. Okay. We've got the patch release of 2603, which we've merged most things in. The only thing that hasn't been merged, which is not actually part of it, is the notebooks. Sorry, dashboard. No, notebooks v2. That's what I'm trying to say. Enter the manifests. So when you look inside of the new manifests repo, you'll see there are now two folders, notebooks v1 and dashboard, which contain all of our upstream code. There'll be another one called workspaces. The one thing that needs one follow-up, definitely, we'll have to cut RCs into final releases. But the thing that we'll need follow-up is that on this one, I do need to get the RC raised with the new versions of PyTorch and other things like that. And it's just been a slog. So hopefully we can get that this week. I need to follow up with the manifest repo on when they're actually planning to cut it, because if it's in a couple of weeks, then it depends what they want.
So, sorry, Matthew, do we have like some subset of images, or we're still waiting, or what is where does that stand? No wrong answer. I'm just kind of
I just need to raise the PR publicly. I just haven't done that yet.
Okay.
There is some changes. There's some. It's not really worth going into on the call, but like it's just
no, totally fair. Yep, that's fine.
Yeah. It's just it's a problem that. Yeah, there's nothing really to be learned from it. Anyway, okay. So it's a mixture of my time and not, but hopefully this release will be the last one that. Well, we're gonna have to think of what we're gonna do for V2, and that's yeah. So if people have ideas or people who want to help maintain them and have the experience to do it, preferably you have to have actually been a data scientist or AI researcher before. It's very difficult to actually do it without that. So, because you don't know what to build otherwise. Okay. There is something to be said, though, that maybe some design changes in Notebooks v2 could actually make it unnecessary to be anything other than the base dependencies, like Python and not the pip part. But we talked about this many times around, can we package Python environments separately or something to that effect? Okay, this one is just, I really need to publish this draft release. We just need to, it's just saying that there's on the Kubeflow, it's just saying, hey, there's actually now not releases on this repo, and don't get confused. But I just need to check that this is right. That's, if anyone has any opinions that this is not a good draft release.
Do you mean to be sharing, Matthew?
I think I am sharing.
Oh, weird. Sorry, my
Yes.
view got screwed up. Nope, that's on me. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just saying is that maybe I should actually cut it again, but sign it properly. I don't know. Interesting. Anyway. Okay. Dashboard. I don't think there's any changes here other than I'm trying to remember if this was the canonical PR with this one was updated or whether it was the V1 one that was upgraded. Someone raised another one somewhere. Was it this one? No, it must have been the notebooks. Yeah, so I think so pretty much the main thing we need to do here, and we need to work with the manifest group to do this, is upgrade guide for it. I don't know if anyone's made any progress on that, either Andy or Christian. Okay, yeah, we need to paste that up in the manifest peoples. After the release, obviously doing a little bit of upgrading, not everything, because I mean it's just the goal here is to keep things limping along here. And then probably factoring this OAuth2 manifest into here is a good idea as well, because it just naturally progresses the manifest repo into being not a source of manifest. And also makes it so we can release the dashboard as its own component. Group support is definitely something that I want to keep looking at because it's important for the release of Notebooks v2, I would say. It probably impacts Notebooks more than almost any other component because there are many users of Kubeflow who would prefer that they assign access to namespaces or something through groups, for example, rather than through manually binding.
I appreciate that. I think that's got to be one of like a thing that we would descope if we start to get worried about stuff that's not there.
Yeah, I mean,
today.
I'm more looking for someone to help pick this up as a task.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
not,
Yep,
yeah.
totally
So like,
fair.
it's not really for the people on this call. I kind of don't want anyone on this call picking it up. It's more for, this is an area where it's quite a big project, but it requires, there's a pretty well laid out plan, which is even for the current dashboard. It's difficult because it's quite messy, this repo, but it's clear what it needs to do. Because when I say messy, I mean the dashboard has like two different backends. It's like KFM and a Python thing, and so it's a little bit unclear where you need to make the changes. And I did document it here though. But the first thing that needs to support groups is the dashboard. Of course, we could just decide we're not going to do this, and this will be part of the rewrite of the dashboard. But I don't know. This is a debate to be had. I guess I'll put that as a question here, which is debate. Should we just not do this until we rewrite the dashboard, either as part of Workspace frontend or Angular? That's just an interesting question. Okay, if anyone has any opinions, DM me offline. Dependency upgrades. Yeah, that's what we're literally just talking about, which is that there is no path to dependency upgrades for this for a core component of this repo. We are going to need to figure out what the heck we're doing here. We probably should have a separate session on like finalizing this, and I think the front end people would be good stakeholders there. People like Eder, and we should have a document. We need a KEP for this. I mean, as much as it is fully within our rights as the Notebooks working group to make executive decisions here, I think we should have a KEP just because if one of the decisions we make could be to kill this part of the project. So, and that is, it's not, again, we can do it unilaterally, probably. I mean, I've never actually thought about that from a governance perspective, but merging it into dashboard notebooks is kind of, anyway. Okay, anyone got any initial opinions here? If not, Notebooks v1, again, everything's just PyTorch updates and image updates. That's it. And then obviously this PR for the support for Gateway API, and we can talk about that later. We do need to put out some public statements, and I think in the release blog is probably the best way to do that. I think we need to just make sure that the release blog for 2603 actually says Notebooks v1 is EOL at the end of the year, which I don't think it does right now. So we need to make it say that. Okay, Notebooks v2. Do we want to do a demo? Is there anything that's actually changed since the last time we did a demo? I think there is actually some stuff, but I don't know if it's worth doing a demo. Anyone have any opinions there? Let me just check how much has been. Doesn't look like. I think everyone in this call probably knows what the current state is, unless anyone disagrees.
I would like to think if we can get a couple PRs merged this week, I think we actually have some like more fun stuff that we can share next week. So I think we really should queue up, and I'll actually like plan accordingly to like do a demo next week. And hopefully we land 2 or 3 PRs merging today that kind of make that more interesting.
Do you want to do it on the community call, or like we could demo
Let's
it on
talk
the
about
community?
that end of day today.
Yeah.
See if we can get a couple other things in to kind of just show some nice bells and whistles. But I think in the near future, we definitely need to go on community call. I'd love waiting for the community call. I'd love if we could have the secrets endpoint not be like made up. Because I think
honestly,
that makes
for
it
me,
more
I don't
real.
even
I'd
think
like less smoke
that
and mirrors on the community call. Just yeah.
I don't even think that matters. I think the most important thing is actually some of the bigger UI changes that we're planning to get it closer to what we're actually planning to ship, right? Like there's one very significant change that has not been implemented yet, which is the moving of all of the additional information to the sidebar of the table. You know, like is that right now is quite, I feel like I know it seems basic, but when you're a user, you don't care about the behind the scenes stuff, right? You only care about the experience. And I think that is a very different experience. So I don't know. It's just an interesting how long.
That's fair. I just like you get one first impression. I feel like if people like this, pull the repo, and then like secrets don't exist, that just I mean, we're already doing this with the release, but I feel like we're like really, really close in like a week's time or so. We could have all that secrets capabilities in there where it'd be nice to have people
I think
see that.
it's good. I think, but we can
We don't need to
we can
iterate.
discuss it.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna like by any means argue. So yep, that's I'm comfortable
Yeah,
either
yeah.
way. So
I think I just want people to see it. Like I think the question, and this is a question for everyone here, um is there enough there? Yes, I think there is, right? And like the thing we're trying to sell is the vision of why you're going to be upgrading to this. Like we're not end of lifing V1 for no reason. Like this is a better product in every single way. It's not an API change either because it's not an SDK, right? So like it's kind of like there's a V2 of the app you're using. There's an API change actually a little bit for the admin, but not the user, right? This is like the workspace kinds are obviously an API, I guess, but and so I totally get, and we should be, let's get those things in. But the only question is just, is anything that we're doing going to dramatically change? Yeah, probably, but it's mainly going to be UI stuff, I think. So I don't know. Anyone's got any opinions there? We can talk about it in the next section. So I don't know what the best way to structure this thing is, this next part. Probably we've got way too many since we've only got 5 people on the call, let's maybe just go through what everyone's been working on. Or 67 people, whatever it is. And then kind of go from there and make sure everyone's got stuff. Christian?
Before we go there, I just have one thing that I want to bring to the attention, maybe of a few of the front-end folks. I posted this issue, I think 2 weeks ago, regarding the way that the Notebooks V2 front-end is laid out into the iframe in the dashboard, because there's some weird spacing issues going on, and some external contributors volunteered to pick it up, but so far I didn't see a pull request for it. So maybe it would be good if someone joined in that investigation.
Okay. I mean,
Sure.
it's probably pretty
Can
simple.
take a
I
look
think
at
that
this.
Yeah,
you
it's
just
most likely
have
simple.
you-
I'm just not
Paulo, have you
versed.
actually tried to deploy it in part of the dashboard? Probably it would be as simple as you doing that and seeing what it looks like, and you'll probably see it immediately.
Yeah, no, I need to do that.
So that's another question, Andy, not for this piece, but you can probably do it without it in this case. But so that actually is the one thing that we probably want to highlight. So yeah, the dashboard, the auth in tests effectively is like this is the thing, right? So and because this is going to help everyone. These 2 testing ones kind of help everyone do everything.
yes.
Right now, everyone's testing in an environment which is again, if we end up changing the dashboard, probably actually quite similar to the future, but you know what I mean? Like right now, the end user will be deploying as part of a dashboard. So, and especially with auth. And so I think the question for the front end team is, have we done any plans here because I really want it. This is the first step for the auth, which is the front end needs, because we're not going to put auth into the tilt version. We'll just make a fake auth in the sidebar of the dashboard effect of the app. Does anyone have any
So like, yeah, and Paulo or Charles, I can talk with you on this, but like fundamentally, we have that like weird debug panel that like I'm not really sure what it's used for today. But if we just had like a text box in there that was just like use like Kubeflow user ID, it can have some default value, but that would allow us in the dashboard if we went in and changed that text box value as you're working through the UI, when you're making API calls, there's like a proxy or however you want to implement it that always injects that header with that value as specified in the debug panel. We can then get like tilt set up with a couple different role bindings on users such that we can like easily and trivially like test different auth flows. So that's kind of the general thought, but we just need a way to seed that in from the dashboard. It does not need to be super pretty. I mean, ideally, if we wanted it to be a drop down to look for role bindings with some label that Tilt creates, we could make that a little bit better. But starting with just a free-form text box to unblock people, I think would be very, very beneficial. But we can talk about that more if needed, but it would be good to get that in there. I think it'd be like super easy to do.
It's one complexity though, just want to highlight for everyone, is that the requests are initiated not from the front end. So effectively you need to somehow make it so that the user is told to inject. That actually might be a little bit harder than it sounds. Is what I'm saying. So we might have to do it with a I don't think it's possible to do with a proxy, but we could potentially do it with effectively we just so it just for the front end people, just quick question. What is it, just straight normal HTTP requests that are being told by the user to initiate in all cases in JavaScript? Or is there like a wrap? Is this MUI doing some like, it's React then? It's React. So it actually just need to, the requests are all being initiated through React. Is that correct, Charles? Paula?
Yeah, that's correct.
I guess then the place it would need to be is, can you inject a header forcibly in React based off a cookie, let's say, or local data?
I think it would be possible for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Because if this is something
I
I'd
need
love
to
to
check
get
the
in,
framework. Yeah.
Because if we do this, then we can get rid of the like I can smash in, and we don't even this. You don't even, technically speaking, we actually, once we've got that, do we even need the? We might actually be able to remove the ability to disable auth even at this point, right? Like, there's is there a need for anyone?
Well, I mean, sorry, we need to do tilt work, right? Because there needs to be like RBAC tying to whatever user they're sending.
Yeah,
like we'll need.
That's simple though. Like, I mean, we can.
Well, I understand, but it's a step that must be done. I thought you were saying, can we just delete this with the front end change? And the answer is no, but it's easy.
That's easy. But then the next part is, can I remove? I think at that point, honestly, I think step 3 can actually happen here, is what I'm saying. And then
yes, sorry, yes,
yeah. And because then we just remove this weird security vulnerability, and then it's great.
Yes,
right.
And
then
agree.
And then this this is something we should do, but it will take a little bit more time. So it's there's no reason to delay the. I just trying. Is there a place I'm missing where we disable auth necessarily? I don't think so, right?
No, I mean, because I mean, I've like hacked stuff locally and like it absolutely, like, I mean, me and you have worked on some patches, but like you can get this to run locally in Tilt and verify it. I have done it. So like it does work. We just need to like smooth these edges you've said right here.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, even before this, by the way, there is there's a Tilt dashboard in Tilt first step. You know what I mean? Like step 1, which is because this is actually probably a good idea either way. Although does dashboard really need auth? This may not. I'm trying to think. Is anyone got in there off the top of their head whether this would be possible? Like, is it possible to do this one on its own without OAuth 2 proxy? Because dashboard itself needs the header as well. I think it might need both.
I'm just thinking of like things don't work right if you don't have profile controller. So I feel like that all probably has to be there, but I don't know if I've tested those permutations. But
So if you deploy dashboard, the manifests
like,
are
can you be
pretty
more
clean.
specific about what you mean there? Like, is that when you say deploy dashboard, is that just central dashboard manifests or like the
So that would
conceptual?
work. Yeah, so yeah, but dashboard depends on KFAM, which depends on
Right.
profile controller. So
Yes.
so that's what I'm saying. So but that's all fine. So what I'm saying is we deploy all of dashboard in the same way that this literally we deploy this folder. What I'm saying is we go, not that one. This overlay that Christian and us all work to get in. Really, it just points to these three upstream things. Like all I'm saying is tilt does that as well, and then
Yep.
in one of the like tilt up dashboard or whatever does that, or with an environment variable or something. And then if this happens, then rather than
What we probably want to like, do we want to pin like, do
that
we
will work.
pin
I
that?
think, yeah, yes. But that will work. Well, to a version. But
Right.
that
Yeah.
will
So we
work.
would like pin that to like 2.0 once that's merged in manifest, right? That'd be my thought right now.
Or we can literally pull it probably from the dashboard repo. But the thing I'm
Oh,
trying to say
sure.
is this doesn't actually include any auth. So I think the issue is still that because in the same way that I've said just before, you need to inject it at the user request layer. There's like we would like it's probably easier to go all the way and also deploy the OAuth 2 proxy, which is why maybe getting those manifests into here and then pulling them wherever it is, into the dashboard repo. Well, actually, it's the dashboard repo. That's why I was getting confused. Getting the OAuth 2 max manifests into here, even if they're not in the release, and pulling them in from there is going to be a lot easier than copying and pasting all the OAuth 2 manifests into the notebook's test tilt file, which is
Well,
strange.
I mean, I don't disagree, but you can just like remotely refer to these things. So I don't like I understand architecturally it's right to do that, but that tilt file could just point to like remote tags of that OAuth stuff wherever it is, right? So
Yeah, that's a good question actually, and also the config side of it is probably the more difficult part, which is that it actually might be easier to, by the nature of what we're doing to move the OAuth 2 proxy manifest and Dex manifest into this repo, we'll be parameterizing it in probably the same way that we actually need to do for the tilt. That's kind of what I was more saying.
I don't disagree, but my point there is if we want to get this in tilt, we shouldn't gate that because you can just literally rewrite the YAMLs on the fly. Like we could get this into tilt in a day with this stuff living in the manifest if we wanted to, right? Whereas like extracting this from manifest and getting it in dashboard would take longer than a day. I'm not saying we should do that, but it doesn't need to be a blocker. So I just wanted to present alternatives.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against doing that. I think
Do,
it's a matter
do
of
we need to specify this in more detail? I think like what we noted down right now is already sufficient for someone to take a look. And it's even a task where like not even necessarily Andy or Matthew would need to take a look. So it's maybe something that I don't know, Akram or I can pick up
the
regarding
part
the
that
skill.
the part that's like incredibly complex is that it's just very hard to find the right manifest that you're going to need to deploy from the manifest repo because it's not factored out right now. Like they're kind of spread across a number of, well, that's the only reason it's like, so by doing that, oh, it's fine. So we can talk about that offline, but let's first get this step done. And then we need to do the dashboard after that. Uh, and then the one last one I wanted to talk about as a community is E2E tests. So how are we going on this for notebooks v2?
We need to just like review my PR to agree on this. Let's get this framework in that at least validates our containers can come up and start in a healthy fashion. That's not a real EDE test, but it's a logical first domino to drop. And then we just have to like decide again, kind of what you were saying, what our framework is, and get like a simple representative use case there that we can point people or agents to, and then have them start rolling out other prioritized flows. So, but I think getting that like first EDE framework PR in, which is completely technology agnostic, and does still give us like some benefits. Do our containers start up is still a valuable thing to know. We just need to get that in first and then figure out like that first representative use case, which in my mind would be like create workspace kind because that's kind of like the first thing you're going to do in everything. So if we get an EDE just for that, which is like very trivial, That'll at least kind of, in my mind, like tree shake, kind of some foundational questions to start to turn people loose on.
This actually comes back to one thing that the Manifest team asked, and I don't know if it's right to do right now out of Christian, which is to do that in the Manifest repo. Like so that so I don't know. I'll just open the PR text. We should discuss this as to um you
So
know
I don't think it makes sense to do something in depth there, but my goal was to do something very simple. So just that like kind of we tick the box. And I think having something really simple is like similar to what Andy proposes, that his PR functionality wise currently does, it would already be good for the manifest people. So just that they know, I don't know, that workspace still can be launched and that it goes into state ready or whatever.
Yeah, so the one that they asked for is obviously not going to be possible for a while. And actually, this is an interesting question for us as to what is our actual suggestion here for users? Like, because we don't like this was using pod defaults previously, right? And so, like, I think we would need to make a workspace kind that injects the same thing that the pod defaults does. So, like that, and so effectively, there should be a custom workspace kind for this repo, is what I'm saying. That does for the manifest test. Because there was 3 tests he linked you to. Notebook
Yes.
control test, you don't need to do any of that really. That's just make sure that they come up and deploy. That's fine. But then this one is the one that I think you may not have noticed, which is that this actually deploys a notebook, and then goes into the notebook somehow and actually runs a pipeline in KFP. So this is doable, but it cannot be done with the sample workspace kind that we've got in our one, which is that the sample workspace kind that we have in our current one does not have the token required to use KFP, which is a question, I guess, as to whether we want our sample workspace kind to have that, but that's or whether we have a separate sample workspace kind for that purpose. But
Well, yeah, I think if this is like specific to manifest, then we should just have another helper script that kind of like inlines the creation of this workspace kind configured exactly as we need it.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, I mean, and the reason why this is possible to test here, but this is why it's actually quite useful for us, is it's possible to test here, but not in our one, is that we don't deploy pipelines in our tests. Why would we deploy pipelines in
Right.
our tests? That doesn't make any sense. But we do deploy every part of Kubeflow here, which is why this is actually valuable to us and worth doing a little bit of
Yeah,
work
yeah,
on.
no, I agree. Yeah,
It
I don't
also
think we
stops
should like
pipelines
over engineer
regressing.
this, but I think that's like really nice coverage. Totally agree.
And it's prevented pipeline regressions previously, where pipelines has changed something about their auth and messed up our thing for no reason, even though we didn't make a change and people would have blamed us. So, Christian, I can help you point exactly what you need to do here because it's a little bit non-trivial because it's kind of embedded here. But the question I just wanted to ask everyone here is, do we want to create a sample in our repo that is actually the one that is used here? Like so. Or
I
pipelines.
think my pull request right now already gets our samples into the manifest repository, and I think we
Does.
can just check how far we get with that. And if like for to me at least, this sounds a little bit like one of the tests that I would have brushed over in a sense, because I thought that it would make more sense to look into this kind of test once we get the E2E test on our side already. But yeah, sure, we can
We
check it
actually
out.
can't though, unfortunately, because of the way pipelines is deployed, and I don't want to
Yeah,
start
yeah,
deploying
I,
again.
I got that. I got that part, but I just like from a how deep one do we want to go into tests there is something where I would be okay with holding off and like getting it in a next or in a follow-up PR to the
I
manifest
think they
people.
might require you to do it, and I actually would agree with him requiring you to do it here because this is, and
Okay.
also to be clear, this is not about. I agree. If the test was to deploy a notebook, it's not no, right? Because we should be testing that, right? But if the test here is actually to test the integration between notebooks and KFP. You know what I mean? Like that's actually the
Yeah.
test, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to like rabbit hole on this, but like I feel like this shouldn't go in samples. I think if we get our EDE like PR merged, we have at least a slash testing folder there. Yes, I realize this is weird because it's really a workspace kind for manifest, not necessarily for us. But I like that being in testing a lot more than samples in my mind. Like I like samples being the demo roadshow. Here's Jupyter. Here's RStudio. Here's code server.
But wait, just thinking about that though, is that not a valid sample, right? Like you're using Kubeflow. Here's how to use Kubeflow notebooks with another part of Kubeflow, right? That seems like something we would. That's a sample, right? Or are we wanting to be hermetic? You know.
I mean, that's fair. We're charging down this path of any possible integration you might want to do. We're going to create a sample for, like, you know, but yeah, that's fine.
I agree that this is an interesting problem, right? This actually is something I think it's worth having a small discussion here, which is like the matrix of workspace kind samples is going to be extreme, right? You know, like this, and so there's always going to be a justification. Someone's going to be like, "Oh, I want you to do SDK. I want an SDK example, please. Which means you both need a new image, maybe that has an SDK version. Probably it'll be in the main one, but let's say it was, you know, Elira or whatever the heck that's now called, you know, and
Kale, yeah, Kale in the future, but yeah,
like that probably won't be installed by default. So like what? So we need to build a whole new image for that, right? Which pip installs it on top, and then and then another one is other things like, and so that's just in this section, right? The image config section. In the extra volumes, so like the part that does pipeline integration is actually here, like that's actually under this section here, and so the question for us is also this is one thing that we have talked about before, but we never really came to an answer, which is previously, while it was completely the wrong way to do it with pod defaults, this was an option, right? Where a user could allow in a namespace this config or not, right? And coming back to our own access control rules that we have for image configs, like we only have two option categories right now, image and pod, right? There is things that were previously done with pod defaults. There wasn't many that matter to us. Really, the only logical one is this like volumes one, maybe, you know, like that's, and so even dev SHM. I just wondering, like, I think it's fine. I think it's to have a workspace kind, which just forces, if you have access to the workspace kind, then it's going to force on a pipeline token into your environment. I think that's acceptable. I'm just wondering if there's other cases people are thinking of that might be more of a tick box on off that they were aware of previously. I don't know, maybe.
So I think that question is a different one to ask than the one you started with, because
Okay.
as you said, like the potential of things that we could have in our workspace kind samples is pretty big, or also in the way that we use those in various integration tests. I think we need to come up with a model for how we like visualize and maintain that, but also like what part of that can be either sourced out to other parts in the Kubeflow projects or members of the community. But I don't think we need to solve this in a sense right now. I think having like for example, pipelines test one here in the default one even would be good. But I don't know. We can also do it in a separate one. It's always good to showcase more things, I'd say.
It just means we have to copy and paste this whole thing to make a pipeline specific one. Or, again, this is a YAML. It can be customized manifest with an overlay. I know it's like harder to copy and paste in, and then it's like, that's getting a little bit messy. And we can't upload a single file then, because right now our system is to upload a single file, right? So I think we've always talked about like a system to generate based off like our samples for you based off what you want. You know, you like tick a bunch of boxes and then it spits a YAML at you for your sample, and then you copy and paste that one.
That is an interesting thought, though. If we could have like rendered and manifest directories, and manifests provide a wide variety of options, but the stuff we have in source control is just like a bare minimum set, right? So it's like, yeah, here you can use customize to do whatever the hell you want with these samples, but we're only going to give you like these three hard coded because they're really for us to like demo and roadshow.
I guess
maybe we need to add support into Kale to generate not only manifests, YAMLs, but also the workspace kinds.
I mean, we could do it much more simply than that, I think. Like, it could literally just be it could effectively, you could imagine a bunch of tick boxes. Like, for example, do you want to allow your users to have sudo? Do you want to allow your users to, what type of GPU do you have in your cluster? what type of IDEs do you want? And then it generates 3 or 4 samples. And then do you want pipelines to be injected and other questions? And then it just like builds up. And actually, it's just a bunch of overlays. Like it's literally just customized behind the scenes so that we don't. That's how we're doing it. But it's like I don't know how the user answers those questions. We probably should move on. But I just wanted to highlight that as we can probably just get away with doing either a patch on our sample to add the change right now in the manifest repo. So, either that, or we just have one of these, copy and paste it with only the exact image that you want to test into the manifest repo. And that's where I'm a little bit worried that it could become out of date, though, it's probably not a big problem, but
I mean, they have those sync scripts, so we can also just adapt those to update the versions wherever we want. It's just
you could also argue it's actually a form of regression testing as well, though, right? That
I can just post something to that merge request, see what I can figure out, and then we get feedback from the manifest people, and you maybe take a little look at it to see if it's the right direction.
So the answer is that right now you have to just put it somewhere, right? So like for example, I just want to highlight this, that you need to put it in, like, for an example, the notebook tests are here right now. So you'd be putting a workspace kind and a workspace. And
yeah, that was my idea.
Probably a whole folder.
Just to vendor it there. Starting out at least.
Put a whole folder there, because you also have some other dependencies as well, like the service account. Actually, no, that would be created automatically. Sorry, I take that back, because the profile controller does it here. Anyway, okay. So I just wanted to highlight these are testing things that affect everyone. What is left to talk about? I know Akram wanted to talk about something. Did he? Maybe he didn't.
So yeah, my update. So I addressed Andy comments regarding the stub PR. Hopefully it's ready now to get merged, and also I worked on the integration of the namespace filter to query the workspace kind. So I'm working on it.
Is that not already done? I thought this was already done.
This is the next step to tie this into kind of our list values, like compatibility selectors bit.
Yeah.
What changes about this relative to what's currently there? Because we added this last
basically adding UI hide false in a hook to eventually control what workspace kinds get returned.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
For at the scope of workspace kind, though.
Yes.
So you need to make a controller change here. The first.
No, because right now it's just it's like the first step of the wizard, right? We want every step of the wizard to abide by compatibility selectors. The list values API endpoints that Akram previously opened handle pod config and image config, but we also need something to handle the workspace kinds that actually get returned. And so this is just
already being done, right?
No. You need a UI hide true false on those elements.
Oh no, so these ones are actually. Oh, interesting, because it's still UI hide. I guess you could do that as well. Like, yeah, so I was thinking that it wouldn't even return them, but okay, yeah, I guess if it's, I guess that's actually another important fact, because as we talked about, it's not a security boundary, and it can't be, because what if there is one of that type in the namespace, right? How are you still going to be, the UI probably will freak out if that happens. So, yeah, okay. So that's really just it's adding a field. Okay. And then
so this way it just gets, it's all of the, again, it's just going to kind of hard code those things, but this is all the endpoints we need for the wizard. So UI can adopt this, and then we're done with that. Like from an integration standpoint, we need to then, next week we've kind of queued up to start to really get back to these compatibility selectors to get a back end and, CRD implementation sorted.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any other comments about that, Akram? Are you ready to work on that next step, or you have
yeah, probably I need another issue, maybe today or tomorrow. I submit.
Do we want to assign and do you want to assign him to like the question of whether we try and do it in all one big bang, or whether we try and do it as because that's a very big PR, right? Like
I'm sorry, which PR are you talking about?
Actually, well, I guess the first step is to add the controllers part, right? The API part of this, or maybe that seems like something you or I could do, probably, because it only really needs to be done once, but then using it, right? So like we can progressively use it more and more.
I think there's probably I will Akram, I will follow up with you in Slack today. We'll probably I think there's some other good like back end stuff that just like can get done that I'd like to. Or Akram, if you want, we'll talk. If you want to look, do you have a preference on controller or back end stuff? I definitely want to like give you stuff that you care about and are interested in.
Yeah, probably we can discuss later on Slack.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yep. I'll follow up with you and we'll make sure you're good. But yeah, I want to make sure you care about the work and you're interested in it. You've earned the right to kind of, choose what you find interesting.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Polo and others, the front end people, what's happening over the current period, I guess, week?
And in the past week, I've been working on some Red Hat internal stuff, so not much news for me on the front end.
You're gonna
I
have
hope
any
to work
time
on a
this
few
week?
issues. Yeah,
Or
a
next week?
little time, not full time, but yeah.
Okay. Probably. So then that's a good point to raise. But okay, so do other people like Charles have time to work on stuff? Should we be focusing your skills on the review or like the time that you do have?
I was reviewing stuff for the front end anyway, but right now I'm just working on the first one that's on the front end stuff there. Or
Oh yeah.
fixing those but these bugs one by one basically. And I think Paulo is picking up some of them as well.
Also, I don't know if Andy talked about it before, but as part of the logs PR, we're probably gonna make a get details API call for for a specific workspace. Because right now the front end has to make a list workspace call to get any information that updates about the whole list all workspaces in the namespace call. So
Yeah.
we're definitely going to add another API call that you can call when the user opens the sidebar and on some regular interval after that.
I
I
will
see.
share.
So like the
I did
details.
just follow up finally with Ollie, the one that like did the initial logs proposal. So I summarized all of our notes and updated that GitHub issue at the beginning of this meeting, actually. But one of the things I said is I need to write up this details API as an issue to assign to him. And Charles, I'll make sure to review that with you and Paulo once that's like there, so we can talk about impact. Like I said, I think fundamentally it makes things like easier long term, so you can actually like refresh a single thing, not have to like worry about refreshing the entire list. So I think it's good. It should be fairly trivial. But we'll absolutely talk about that as I get an issue opened up, which will probably be tomorrow morning, and we'll go from there.
And to be clear, this doesn't affect your attach existing volume.
Yeah.
So has this been done already? I thought I saw this one done. Or what else have you been working on? I guess. Sorry, so we can let you.
I was working on like some changes for the workspace kind update API as well. Was discussing with Andy earlier this week regarding that.
So yeah, the proposal there, Charles, and sorry, I was just like slammed yesterday. So we're good with that proposal now. There was just one to-do comment, which I think was already reflected in your implementation, around we're just going to defer everything to the controller for validation right now. So I just have to clean up like one little note I had in my gist, but I'll close that architecture issue after like pasting all those comments in sanitized form. So we're good there, and then definitely looking to pivot to I'll start to look at your actual API work ASAP.
Perfect. So yeah, other than that, just like doing some cleaning up for the front end and tackling those those issues that you saw there. I opened an issue for each of them. So yeah. And for the fetch a PVCs and secrets on the modal opening, I just opened a PR like maybe like half an hour ago, something like that. So it's fairly fresh. And I'll move on to other items as well. There are a lot of items I open, so a lot of them still need to be worked on.
Cool. And so these are mainly just like the small kind of change. They're individually contained ones. I guess is
Yeah.
Polo planning to be the one to work on the bigger change, which maybe depends on that details API actually. It's worth probably doing that at the same time to remove
Yeah.
the table expansion feature, or who's planning on doing that one?
Yeah, I was planning to do that.
It's probably at the same time as you do that, it's probably worth getting that. We should get that backend details API in at the same just before you make that change, probably, because or
I can
maybe
add
it
more
isn't
info
necessary.
there.
Yeah, or it's just like if you're touching that part of the code, I mean, yeah, if you're touching that part of the code, you might as well make that change at the same time. I don't know. It's up to you guys, obviously. I'm not. You can if it's easy enough to just.
I'm fine either way. I can send another PR after adding the new information after the API changes. That's fine as well.
Because right now it has to refresh by listing all the, and so anyway, so other than that, what is so I think we do need to probably the people who are in this call once they're we should do tasks, absolutely, but we should be trying to find people who can pick up tasks that we can push. If we're able to review in this call, you know, these people here and direct people, you trying to build new people who can become maintainers eventually as well if they choose to is probably something we should all try to be doing in our areas. You know, like Akram is doing great. He's, you know, making his first PRs, and then hopefully over time will become a reviewer himself. Similar, I'm sure. Is there any front end people that we've identified that we want to try and progress? Anyone found anyone? If not, then we should be. That's one of the things we could ask for in the community meeting. You know, like try and find one or more people.
Yeah, there is one person that Andy commented that opened I think 3 or 4 PRs on the front end.
Cool.
We could take a look.
Yeah.
I need to review their PRs, but yeah.
Yeah, so we should evaluate to see what's happening there. Okay. Yeah, just because I think we try and multiply ourselves by being the direction of the project, the people who lead sections, you know, and of course do code when you can, but you know, sometimes a short-term investment in pushing someone up to a maintainer, not maintainer, like even just a contributor level is valuable. Yeah. Anyone got anything they want to say before we stop the recording? Thanks, everyone. Okay. Hopefully we'll get lots more people here after we do the demo, and maybe it'll be crazy, but we can we can deal with that when it happens. Cool. Thanks, guys.